The boy who studied under the streetlight. In a crowded city filled with noise, traffic, and endless rush, there lived a boy named Arman. Unlike the tall buildings that touched the sky, Arman's home was a tiny one-room shack near the railway tracks. Every time a train passed, the walls shook violently, and dust fell from the cracked ceiling. But for Arman and his mother, it was the only place they could call home. Arman never knew his father. His mother, Salma, worked as a housemaid in 3 different homes. She left before sunrise and returned long after sunset, her hands rough from washing dishes and scrubbing floors. Despite their poverty, Salma had one dream, that her son would be educated. Education is the only door that can open our future, she would say. Arman believed her. The light that wasn't enough. Their home had no electricity. At night, the room became completely dark except for a small candle. But candles cost money, and money was always short. So Arman found another way. Every night after finishing his small chores, he carried his old schoolbooks and walked to the nearest streetlight. It stood beside a broken road near the market. While others slept comfortably in their homes, Arman sat under that pale yellow light and studied. People often laughed at him. "Look at that poor boy pretending to be a scholar," some shopkeepers would mock. But Arman never replied. He kept reading. Mathematics. Science. English. History. Sometimes mosquitoes bit him. Sometimes drunk men passed by shouting loudly. Sometimes rain forced him to run home. Still, he returned every night. A promise to his mother. One evening, Salma noticed how thin Arman had become. "Are you eating properly?" she asked with worry. "Yes, Amma," he lied gently. The truth was, he often saved part of his lunch money to buy second-hand books. That night, as she massaged his head, she whispered, "I cannot give you comfort, my son. But I pray that life will reward your efforts." Arman held her hand and said softly, "One day, Amma, you won't have to work in anyone's house." Salma smiled, but deep inside she feared reality was stronger than dreams. The turning point. One winter night, something unexpected happened. While Arman was studying under the streetlight, a black car stopped nearby. A middle-aged man stepped out. He wore a simple coat but had kind eyes. He observed Arman quietly for several minutes. Finally, he approached him. "Why are you studying here at this hour?" the man asked. Arman stood up nervously. "Sir, we don't have electricity at home." The man looked at the worn-out books, the patched clothes, and the determination in the boy's eyes. "What do you want to become?" he asked. Arman didn't hesitate. "I want to become an engineer. I want to build strong houses, so no child has to live in fear when trains pass." The man was silent. Then he smiled. "My name is Mr. Farid. I run a small educational foundation. Would you allow me to visit your home?" Arman's heart began to race. Was this real? A new beginning. The next day, Mr. Farid visited their tiny shack. Salma felt embarrassed, but Mr. Farid showed no sign of judgment. He spoke gently. "Your son is extraordinary. With proper support, he can go very far." Within a month, Arman received a scholarship. His school fees were paid. He was given books, a uniform, and even a small study lamp powered by a rechargeable battery. For the first time, Arman studied at home under a proper light. That night, Salma cried silently, but these were tears of hope. The challenge grows harder. But success did not come easily. As Arman entered high school, the subjects became harder. The competition became tougher. Many students came from wealthy families with private tutors. Arman had none. He often felt exhausted. Sometimes doubt entered his mind. Maybe those people were right, maybe I don't belong here. One evening, after failing a difficult math test, he sat alone in the classroom long after everyone had left. Mr. Arman, his math teacher, noticed him. "Why are you still here, Arman?" "I'm not smart enough, sir," he whispered. Mr. Arman looked at him seriously. "Talent is common. Discipline is rare. I've seen many talented students fail because they stop trying. You don't stop." That sentence changed everything. The night of the storm. Just before his final board exams, disaster struck again. Heavy rain flooded the railway area. Their shack was damaged badly. Books got wet. The small study lamp stopped working. Salma panicked. "We should move somewhere else." But they had nowhere to go. For 3 nights before the exam, Arman barely slept. He dried his books under the sun during the day and revised from memory at night. On the morning of the first exam, he looked pale but determined. Salma placed her hand on his head. "Go with faith." The result that shocked the city. 2 months later, the results were announced. Arman stood frozen in front of the school notice board. Rank 1, city topper, Arman Salma. He blinked again and again. Was this his name? Students whispered. Teachers smiled proudly. Journalists arrived. News spread quickly. The boy who studied under a streetlight tops the city. Salma heard the news from a neighbor. She dropped the plate she was holding and ran barefoot toward the school. When she saw her son surrounded by people, she covered her mouth and cried openly. This time, no one laughed. The bigger dream. Arman received admission to one of the best engineering universities in the country, with full scholarship. Life in the university was different. Big libraries. Modern laboratories. Smart students from across the nation. At first, he felt small again. But this time, he remembered his journey. Whenever he felt overwhelmed, he reminded himself of the streetlight. If I could survive that, I can survive this. He worked harder than ever. During his final year, he designed a low-cost housing model for poor families living near railway tracks and flood-prone areas. His project won national recognition. Investors showed interest. But Arman had one condition. These houses must be affordable for the poor. Returning home. Years later, Arman returned to his old neighborhood, not as a poor boy, but as a civil engineer leading a government housing project. Bulldozers removed unsafe shacks. Strong foundations were laid. Brick by brick, new houses were built. Safe. Durable. Affordable. One evening, Salma stood in front of their newly built small but solid house. No cracks. No shaking walls. No leaking roof. She touched the wall gently and whispered, "You kept your promise." Arman smiled. "I learned strength from you, Amma." The real light. A few weeks later, Arman installed a tall solar-powered streetlight near the same market where he once studied. Children from poor families began gathering there every evening to read. One boy asked him, "Sir, did you really study under this light?" Arman looked up at the glowing lamp. "Yes," he said softly. And this light changed my life. Then he corrected himself. No, not the light. The decision to never give up. The message. Arman became known not just as an engineer, but as a symbol of resilience. He often said in public speeches, "Poverty is a condition, not a destiny. If your circumstances are dark, become your own light." The final scene. One quiet night, Arman and Salma walked past the railway tracks. A train thundered by, shaking the ground, just like in the old days. But this time, nothing broke. Nothing collapsed. Because foundations were stronger now. Salma looked at her son and said, "Do you regret those difficult days?" Arman smiled gently. "No, Amma. Without that darkness, I would never have searched for light." Above them, the streetlight glowed steadily, not just lighting the road, but lighting futures. And somewhere in the city, another poor child opened a book under that same light. Because hope, once planted, never stops growing.